What is up? It's been a beautiful day here in the Pittsburgh area. Probably the last day of 70-degree weather we're going to get all year. But just 2 weeks ago, it was almost 90. And then all of a sudden, the fall kicked in. Oh well, still nice enough out to ride. But anyway, in a couple previous videos, I've been talking about spending money and not spending money, taking risks with money, and how people waste their money. And today I'd like to talk about a little something when it comes to assets versus liabilities. Now, if you've read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you're already familiar with what I'm going to be talking about. But maybe I'll say something that you haven't heard, or maybe that you never thought of. And also, if you've read the book The Free Agent Lifestyle, you might be familiar with some of this stuff. But to those of you who aren't, assets and liabilities are really easy to explain. An asset makes you money, a liability takes money. There's definitely more to it than that, but I'm not going to show all the graphs and all the stuff that they show in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But I wanted to tell you a little story about a guy who served with me in the Army. This was a dude who went to AIT with me, and then we ended up in the same medical platoon. Well, the first time we got back from Iraq, we had all that good tax-free money saved up, and I went out and bought a brand new 2004 Impala, put a couple grand down, and on top of the monthly payment, I would make an extra principal payment that was equal to the regular monthly payment. So I had that car paid off in just over 2 years. Now, my buddy that I went to AIT with, he went out and he bought a used Mustang GT. And it was all right. He put some money into it. I mean, it was a Mustang GT with all the basic stuff that people do when they buy a Mustang: headers, exhaust, pulleys. I think he changed the gears in the back to, I think he changed them to 411, something like that. But anyway, I mean, it wasn't fast. It was just a Mustang GT. It was a stick, though. I give him that, so that was nice. But, you know, pretty average for a Mustang, nothing special. I mean, because let's face it, you got to put a ton of money into a Mustang GT to make it a fast car, especially when you're used to riding bikes. But anyway, he was only 20 years old at the time, and what I'm guessing is he looked at the monthly payments and thought, oh, I can afford that. But what he didn't factor in was the insurance and the gas, the replacement cost of tires, you know, just the replacement cost of everything. Because a Mustang, to get those low profile tires, you're going to be paying a hell of a lot more than you would, or than I would have been, or I was, for my Impala. But he didn't take a lot of that stuff into account. And before long, somehow he was broke. I mean, he should have had that car paid off, unless he just somehow managed to waste a ton of the money that he made from Iraq. But anyway, he ended up getting rid of it. And that was right about the time that Fort Campbell and the Army decided to bring back the 506th Infantry Regiment. Now, if you've seen Band of Brothers, you know who I'm talking about. The 506th, they have the spades on their helmets. Where I was in the Deuce, we had hearts on ours. But so they were offering medics, E4 and below, a $10,000 bonus to move over to the 506th. So what does this idiot do? He takes the bonus, and then he goes out and buys a newer Mustang GT. Does that make any sense? I mean, that's insanity right there. You're just doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Oh, man. Well, sure enough, the second deployment to Iraq, well, obviously he wasn't with us, but we all went roughly the same time. And whenever we got home, even though he still had, you know, he would have had all that tax-free money from the second deployment, hopefully even more, you know, seeing as how he was an E4 for the second deployment, he still ended up having to get rid of that Mustang. Now, the way a lot of insurance companies work is that they'll base part of your insurance payment off of the zip code that you live in. Now, whenever you're a young guy and you live on a major military installation, I'm guessing the insurance for any kind of quote-unquote muscle car is going to be higher than it would have been maybe in a different zip code. Because young idiot privates in the military tend to go out and buy these quote-unquote muscle cars within a couple weeks of getting to their first duty station, and they end up wrecking them. Or something happens, they screw up the car somehow. So the insurance that was already high to begin with is now going to be higher just due to the area that you live in and the car that you're driving. And age also. I mean, he was only 20 when we got back the first time, so I never actually found out how much he was paying. He wouldn't say. But what he did say was that it's almost as much as the car payment, which I still don't understand how he had a car payment when he could have just paid it all off. But hey, you know, young, dumb private. I mean, he used Mustang at that point. That was 2004, and I think he bought a 98 GT, so it shouldn't have been that much. But either way, yeah, he screwed up. Then we get home for the second deployment, and I find out, I don't know if he wrecked it or if he just had to get rid of it because he couldn't afford it. But the next thing I know, when I saw him, he was driving around in a used Pontiac Sunfire. So something happened to where he had to get rid of that car. But in that case, nothing about either one of those Mustangs would have made them assets. For him, they were nothing but money pits. The gas, the insurance, the upkeep, all that stuff. But that's what happens whenever you're a young guy and you get some money all of a sudden and you don't actually think things through. You know, he assumed he could afford it just because he looked at the monthly payment, but he didn't factor in all the other stuff. So whenever I talk about going out and treating yourself and buying yourself something nice, I'm assuming that you have all your other debts paid off. You know, if you owe $5,000 in credit card debt, you should get that paid off before you do go out and treat yourself. I mean, unless you consider treating yourself going out and seeing a movie or just something simple like that. Yeah, you got to do that. You got to live every once in a while. But once all your debts are paid off, that's what you need to focus on. Getting that crap knocked out. You know, whatever credit card debt you might happen to have, say you have a bike payment. Actually, my bike payment isn't a big deal. And I'm actually paying more on the principal every month than I am on this, but it's still, between all of my bills put together, I'm talking about my mortgage, my bike payment, all, electric, gas, all that stuff. It doesn't even go up to half of what I make. So, and that's including the principal payment on this and the principal payment that I make on my house every month. Actually, that's about half, maybe a little over half now that I think about it, because in the wintertime my electric bill goes up, and in the winter my gas bill goes up, and in the summer my electric bill goes up, so I didn't even think about that. But yeah, a little over half of what I make gets spent paying off bills and paying off my mortgage and my bike payment. That leaves all the rest as being disposable, available to invest or just waste like an idiot, which I don't do anymore. But so where I'm at right now is where a lot of people wish they could be. Like whenever I said something about having $2,000 in credit card debt, I'm sure there's some guys out there who are going to watch that and think, man, I wish I only had $2,000 in credit card debt. But that's the thing. That's something that you'll learn from reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It talks a lot about how the middle class, somebody might be making $70,000 or $80,000 a year, but if they're spending $70,000 or $80,000 a year, at the end of the day, they're still broke. On paper, they might be middle class, but the reality is that they're poor. And a lot of people do that because a lot of people want to keep up with the Joneses. They want to put out that image that they're rich or that they have a ton of money, when in reality, all they're doing is spending all the money that they make and getting themselves further into debt by putting everything on credit cards. Now think about this. If you're on Facebook or any kind of social media and you have enough friends or at least enough acquaintances, you probably have somebody that falls into this category. Think about the people who you know damn well they don't have the money to constantly be taking vacations or buying all the expensive stuff that they're always posting pictures of, but yet somehow they have all this cool stuff. Well, chances are they're crushing themselves with credit card debt. I mean, unless you know a girl who's got a sugar daddy or something like that, or maybe some people who got an inheritance from their parents or got an inheritance somehow, or somehow received a ton of money that they didn't actually earn. You know, it'd be like somebody who works at McDonald's showing up in like a brand new BMW 7 Series or something. Like, how the hell do you afford this? But there's a lot of people out there who like to flex and pretend like they have money, when the truth is, they're in the negative. There's a lot of people like that. A lot of them in the military. Which I don't understand how anybody could be in the military and be broke. I mean, everything's paid for. Your housing's paid for. Your food's paid for. Your paycheck, if you're a single guy, should be 100%, well, not 100% disposable income. I mean, you got to pay for internet and cell phone and stuff like that, but you don't got to worry about gas or electric. You don't got to worry about food. Even if you're not getting BAS, you still have the DFAC, or you can get a meal card, you know, and eat at any DFAC. There's a lot of guys that do, because they just waste all their money on dumb shit. Usually a muscle car or a motorcycle. And that's another thing, when guys in the military get credit cards, a lot of them just go out and buy a motorcycle. It's crazy. I've seen it happen so many times, and if you're a veteran, chances are, well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Muscle cars and crotch rockets. Keeping the used car dealerships and used motorcycle dealerships outside of major military installations in business for decades. But my buddy John and I were talking about the people who post all this stuff on social media, always taking vacations and posting pictures of their brand new iPhone, all shit like that, and you know damn well neither one of them can afford that stuff. Where they get the money? Well, probably credit cards. Either that or somebody's pimping somebody.
I'm talking about pimping, been since pimping, since pimping.
But you know, it's sad that people go to college for 2, 4, 5, 6, 8 years, maybe even longer. Then they get out, maybe they actually have a degree that's worth something, but they end up going into debt just because they're trying to flex like that. Because something that most colleges don't teach you is how to manage money. They might teach you how to get a good job where you make a ton of money, but they don't tell you what to do once you actually have it. And that's something that the NFL and I believe all the pro sports leagues do. They sit these rookies down and say, yeah, look, you got a $5 million contract. You don't need to get stupid with this money. And they give them sort of financial preparation or financial planning classes. Now, I was lucky enough to have something like that my senior year in high school, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people still don't get that in college. They don't get it from their parents because, as it's explained in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, a lot of people in the middle class just do nothing but spend all their money trying to put out that image that they are rich. And at the end of the day, they have no savings, no retirement, nothing like that. Or maybe they even dip into their savings or retirement or their children's college fund to buy stuff like that. Like the story I was telling about this dude I knew who was selling all his tools. And what happened right after tax time? You know, he was complaining before Christmas that he was broke, and that's why he was selling all his tools. And then afterwards, after he gets his tax return back, he goes out and buys a gigantic flat screen TV that he has absolutely no use for. I mean, what, is that TV getting you laid? No. Is that TV making you money? No. What the hell's the point? How are you going to complain about being broke and then go waste a ton of money on something you don't even need? People do it all the time. They're so concerned with what's going on right now. And I know I was there. I was there where I didn't think about saving money. All I was concerned with was having a big TV and a loud stereo, all that stuff. You know, loud stereo in my house, big TV in my house, loud stereo in my car. But at the same time, I never went deep into debt doing all that stuff. Just look at the people who finance their iPhones. You know, like I said before, somebody who's financing a cell phone, but they couldn't afford to pull $1,000 out of the bank right now. If you're financing anything other than a house, a car, motorcycle, or any sort of vehicle, I mean, if you're financing a cell phone, but you can't pull $1,000 out of the bank right now, you have failed at life. I mean, if you're financing a cell phone, period, something's probably wrong if you can't afford to just buy it outright. Because what's that cell phone doing for you? Is it making you money? Is it getting you laid? Or are you some kind of insta-thought who makes a living posting half-naked pictures online? Because if so, then you probably don't need to finance the cell phone. You probably already got enough people from OnlyFans or, you know, whatever, Patreon giving you money so you can just buy it outright. But these people financing small stuff like that are the people who go to, what the hell is the name of the place? I can't remember the exact name of the stores, but the rent-to-own type places where you can rent a couch or rent a TV and eventually pay it off. Read the fine print, man. If you get a $1,000 TV with the interest as high as it is, they end up charging you for a $1,000 TV. You'll end up paying like $2,400, $2,500. It's nuts. But people do it all the time. Rent to own. Screw that, man. If you can't afford to buy that stuff outright, don't buy it. It's going to end up costing you so much more. Especially with the TVs and stuff like that. I mean, if you already have a TV, what the hell do you need a bigger one for? Like, say you have a 40-inch right now. It works just fine. What is the point of going out and financing, you know, a 50 or a 60-inch? What's that going to do for you? All it's going to do is put you further into debt. Again, a lot of people don't learn that. They just see like, oh, you mean I only have to pay $35 a month? Like, yeah, you're going to be paying $35 a month for the next couple years. Rather than just saving up that $1,000, you're going to end up spending over double that. Just think about that. That's what a lot of people don't get when they buy a house. You might buy a house for $100,000, but at the end of the day, you're going to be paying around $2,000 if you just pay it off. If you pay the regular monthly payment and no extra principal payments, yeah, you're going to end up paying about double, depending on the interest rate. Now, if I keep paying on my house the way I am, I'll have it paid off in about 10 years. Actually, I think maybe a little bit less. And that's something I would rather do just to get that off of my mind. One less payment every month. And I'm doing the same thing with this bike. I'm going to have this bike paid off in just over 2 years. So to you guys out there, younger guys, older, it doesn't matter. You got to be careful with your money. Don't worry about impressing people. The only person that you should be worried about impressing is yourself. That's something a lot of people need to learn, man, because at the end of the day, the only person you have is yourself. Friends come and go. Cars come and go. Bikes come and go. But whenever you go to sleep at night, can you sleep? Or are you too worried about all that debt? All that money that you owe? Wouldn't it be nice to have more money coming in than what you're paying out? A lot of people don't think of it that way. But anyway, I'm going to hit up... Ooh, that is a sexy sunset right there. I'm going to hit up some of these beautiful country roads and enjoy what's probably the last 70-degree day of the year. Hope everybody enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, dislike, comment, subscribe. Hit that little bell for the notifications because YouTube has been screwing me over for a while now. Now that I'm 100% positive my channel has been blacklisted or de-ranked or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, hope everybody enjoys this day and the rest of the week. Have a happy Halloween if I don't put out any more videos. And I will see you later. Peace.